Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ryan.
And my name is Heather.
And we are here today at the Confidence Through Cabaret podcast, and we are super excited to be welcoming speaker, counselor, EFT practitioner, the wonderful and truly amazing Amanda Ferrat. Hey Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Oh, we're so excited to be featuring you today. We've, spoiler alert, everybody, we've spoken before and we are huge fans of the wonderful Amanda. You are absolutely amazing. We're so grateful to have you on the podcast today. Thank you.
Oh, feels so special.
You are indeed. So we'd love to start because you have a really interesting set of practices that are part of what you do as a counselor and an EFT coach. For those who don't know what EFT is, or may be confused that it might be a physical practice that you go in and tap random people, like I thought. If you're listening to this podcast, then you should know that everybody is laughing at me at present. Could you tell us a little bit about EFT?
Yes. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it is a combination of both Eastern and Western practices. So the Eastern part is that the points that you're tapping on your body are acupressure meridian points that activate various kind of systems or organs in your body. And the Western part is that it brings in talk therapy. So we're using some questions and some reflecting language back to kind of dig into the subconscious and do some healing and rewiring of the subconscious. So when we're tapping on those acupressure meridian points, what's happening is our amygdala in the brain, which is responsible for fight, flight, or freeze, calms down. Our sympathetic nervous system calms down. Our limbic system, which is in charge of our emotions, calms down. And then we're able to access our subconscious brain. Instead of being back here in primal brain, we can come up and dig deeper into our subconscious brain so we can make decisions from a clearer space. We can tap into old memories, thoughts, patterns of thinking, beliefs, trauma, old wounds, and start to rewire and rework those and work on healing our brains. And it's also a great tool for moving from one emotional state to another. So if you're anxious, depressed, feeling grief, even anger or frustration, you can move from that emotional state, vent it out, work it out, and kind of move yourself into a different place.
Amazing.
Wow.
So,
That's a great description. That was a really great description. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask as well, when you talk about the sort of accessing those pressure points through the tapping, do you find that obviously it's not going to be the same, but do you find that there's some sort of, you notice a kickback to from an energy sort of standpoint when you find an area that's sort of not locked, more as blocked, maybe might be the right word? Do you get is there a sensation that you get from that?
I do, and I can't speak for everybody that taps, but I definitely, and I'm also very intuitive and empathic. So in my sessions, if I'm if I'm not hitting right on, right, if my language isn't working or something's not working, I can feel that. But yesterday I was tapping with someone and I got this intuitive download of an affirmation that they needed and some other stuff. And I literally felt like someone put an ice cube between my shoulder blades.
Oh.
Because I just got this tingling sensation. And I also use crystals and stuff. I'm a little woo. And so I don't know if that's raising my vibrations in the last couple of weeks because I've added to my crystal collection, but it does. And because of some of those points, I have some favorite points. But some of them tap on your front nervous system, right, that runs from top to bottom, and some of them tap on your back nervous system that runs along your spinal cord. So it's very possible to have these sensations of release, or we often yawn during tapping because you're relaxing yourself and you're going into that rest and repose state. So you'll often yawn if you're having a really good tapping session. But yeah, it is possible to have, and of course you might tap on some things and another emotion or a memory may come forward, and you might find you were angry before, now all of a sudden you're sad or disappointed, and that emotion skyrockets and you're rating go right back up and you're kind of reactivated. So EFT can be this journey of like highs and lows. And as a practitioner, I'm trained in how to kind of follow those highs and lows. And I know there's some people may be watching this later. I am Italian, so I'm over here talking with my hands. I hope that's not too,
You are good.
Right.
too distracting. But yeah, so it's a really powerful and really neat tool, because I've watched people instantly start crying because something I will say, or they'll tap on a point and it'll land, and they'll just be like, because their subconscious gives them an answer or brings forth a memory, or they're like, oh my gosh, now I can connect the dots. Now I understand why this pattern has repeated itself. It goes clear back to this memory when I was 4 years old and this thing happened. And so EFT can unlock these things. And Dr. Peter Stapleton has a great book. It's called Behind the Science of Tapping, if anybody wants to know the science and get into that more. But we can tap on global issues that are like the top of a table, and all these memories or incidences that reinforce that global belief are like legs on the table. So in EFT tapping, we try to take out the legs and rework those parts of it, and then the table tumbles and you're better.
Wow.
Right.
So is this a case of we do this, I'm not gonna say once, but we do this, we release it, and we're better. Does it come back? Like, is
It can.
Okay.
Because again, if it's a global issue, like let's say there's a thought or belief, especially like around confidence, right? Like I'm not worthy. So maybe there's multiple memories in time that have reinforced that thought of I'm not worthy. So the more, once you start to take one of those legs out, the table gets a little wobbly, but the more you take out those big memories that really reinforce that thought, the more wobbly the table gets. And if you can knock that table over, that's the goal. That's when you can start to kind of pull back, and you aren't going to need the tapping as much. And then there's people that use tapping as a daily practice because it is a mindset shift tool. And so you can use it every morning. If you wake up, today I'm feeling, I'm not quite where I want to be energy wise, or I'm not quite where I want to be confidence wise. And you can tap it out every morning in the mirror.
Wow. That sounds nice, actually, because just even doing the tapping, and I know we were kind of talking to you about it before, and just the points that you tap, it feels good, and it doesn't have to be that you want to go fully into the practice and into crystals and all of this. It just feels good, so you have to know that is releasing in your body.
Right. Yeah, and you don't even have to say it out loud. You can just say the phrases in your head. Or if you're in a space where you're anxious and you need to like calm down, you can literally just tap on the side of your fingers. So on the side of your finger along your nail beds with your other like pointer and middle finger, and just tap on your fingers. And that's going to start activating those systems to calm down and get you to just kind of like take a breath, kind of settle in. So you can use tapping on your fingers just to interrupt any kind of emotion and kind of start to kind of get into that rest and repose, so you can make better decisions. You're coming from a response versus reaction space of making decisions. And I wish I would have had this tool years ago when I did school-based mental health, because I could have taught a bunch of 11, 12, 13-year-olds an inconspicuous way to calm down. They could have done it under their desks or under the tables in their classrooms. And so instead of blowing up and getting kicked out of class and sent to the vice principal and then getting sent to detention or whatever consequences they would have faced, they could have had a tool to calm down in that moment. Right. So I'm really glad I now have EFT.
Yeah. I have a son who's 20 next month, and he told me at Christmas that he's always felt anxiety. And most people would have just said they thought he was quiet until they got to know him, and then they find out he is not quiet. And that's because he's pushing down all of this anxiety, and to be able to release that is such a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is. And if you can learn that at a young age, to just release that, and then that makes you feel safe and comfortable and able to express your voice. And I mean, wow, that's such a gift.
Oh, but can you imagine if we'd had some of the tools that we would have loved to have had now as teenagers, going through the hell and stress that is high school and doing all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, I could be really wrong, because I haven't been through the therapy with you, Amanda, but for me, I feel, because I don't feel anxiety in that same way that my son describes it, where he always feels like, you know, there's like a delay. I've forgotten what they call it now, but like a disfluency. That's what it is, in inability to express things. And of course, when we have a disfluency, or even a thought process that is more introverted, and we think about things before we speak, 9 times out of 10, some extrovert will have come along and filled in that silence, and so you're not heard anyway, and then that, you know, affects your throat chakra and so on, and that throws us off. But I think for me, the application is, because I am a true extrovert, so I just let all the stuff out, like, just randomly. Stop laughing, Ryan. So, he's been on the receiving end. So, but I think for me, it's a lot about the physical traumas, you know, that I've held, that I don't even know I've held in my body, but that changes how we, you know, our posture, and that changes, you know, just I guess the energy flow and our breathing and so on. But for me, it's I think it's more physical traumas. So is that fair to say that, like, if we get, I don't know, hit on the head, or I was in a car accident and had a back and neck injury, so I'm holding all of that. So in the then that seems to me where immediately what you're talking about is like, oh, I would love to release all of that healing that's kind of healed all like this instead of like this.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about tapping, is it can be used for physical pain. It can be used for like habit cessation or building habits. It can be used for anything that's got any kind of tie to reworking our subconscious, or kind of getting in there and working with the wiring of our brains. And so, you know, I've had it done a little bit for me on pain, and I've done it for others on pain, like headaches or things like that. Basically, it's got so many applications that it is just, I can't even list them all, right? And the beautiful thing is I just got certified and graduated with my basic EFT certification in February. And I graduated with a bunch of other amazing women, and they are all doing different things. So if I'm not somebody's ideal practitioner, there's somebody else out there. Like, I know women that are doing it around food allergies because they have a child with food allergies. So not only the emotions that come up for parents around having to like cope with the stress of having a child with food allergies, but around that, all the other aspects of that as well. I mean, there are practitioners for all the different little niches of ways to use EFT.
Wow. So what made you get started in EFT?
Well, I have been on a healing journey for a while, because I have suffered numerous losses in a very short time span, and wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't setting aside time for my grief and my emotional needs. And I'm a very emotional person. I am a Cancer, but my emotions weren't getting time and space because I was in grad school and doing all these other things. So I would go home, deal with the business of death and losing whoever I had lost, and then come home or come back and go right back to grad school. And like one example is I literally put my cat, who I'd had for 10 and a half years, who had moved with me from Philadelphia to Montana to here in Portland, put her down on a Saturday because she was dying of kidney failure, and went to school on Monday and started the term. Right. So it was literally just going right back to school after all these losses with no time to honor my grief or my emotions. And it imploded. And so I'm a grad school dropout, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because it led me on this amazing path where I got to learn more about myself and dig in and do some deep healing. And so earlier in 2020, I was one of the coaches that I follow. She was having Jackie McDonald come on to do some tapping. And I had literally just come out of my first astrology reading. So that was really emotional, right? And then I get on Facebook, and here's this live tapping session. I got on right as they were going live. So it's like Simon Says, right? So I just jumped in and started following along. Sure. And the tears immediately flowed. Right. And it was this beautiful release. And I felt things come up and let go that I'd been struggling with forever. And I don't even remember what she was tapping on, but some, you know, kind of acknowledging that younger self. And I was just like, I'm sold. Like this, I don't know what this magic is that this woman just did, but I need it not only for myself, but for everyone that I'm going to work with. Like this is my new modality. Like I need to know all I can know. And then shortly thereafter, she announced that she was doing her next round of practitioner training. And I was like, here's my credit card number. Like, yes, please sign me up. And yeah, that was history. I was in, and I am so bought in that I'm doing the advanced practitioner training so that I can do that deeper trauma work and the inner childhood work. Because I believe in this so much, and I am seeing how much it is a fit for what I want to do, and what a gift it's been for my own healing as well as those I've worked with.
Wow.
That's
Wow, that's
incredible.
amazing. You just know, I mean, that's the, you know, people talk about inner alignment, but that is just like, boom, inner knowing at its core.
Yes.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about some of your other work. So you use crystals.
Yes.
How do
And that's more just like for funsies. They're pretty. I've always loved pretty rocks. Like, but you know, I mean, I've got my amethyst here. I mean, I've got tons of them. I don't even want to talk about how much I've spent on my crystals, but I do feel like they help. Some of that is just, you know, maybe some of it's placebo effect. If people believe it, they believe it. But I do feel like they do share some of those beautiful energies. And so one of the things I hope to offer as I kind of build up my business, now that I have what I call my crystal dealer, my supplier, is to do some like grief tumbles or emotional tumble bag starter kits. So they'd have different tumbles of all the like stones that everybody I think should have to start with their emotional healing.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I started introducing crystals to like my friends in Montana who were, you know, they were like the least likely ever to embrace anything woo-y, right? But now my mom's into crystals, and my best friend Trisha, like she still goes to bed with the rose quartz and amethyst that I sent her. And it was actually, I used crystals to help with my other good friend and her family when they lost a family member. He died by suicide in summer of 2019. And so I couldn't get home just yet, but the first thing I did was call the crystal shop there in town, put together a beautiful package for them, and had a family member take it and deliver it to them. And, you know, it helped. So, you know, if any little tricks, tools, or tips or things that people can use, and they're pretty to look at. So it doesn't hurt to have a shelf full of them sitting there.
So you use it in holding them, or
or I'll like, I'm not trained in Reiki, but I know a lot of, you know, Reiki uses a lot of stones and energy. So I will just kind of, I've got, you know, Kambaba is a great one for tapping. So I have a few pieces of Kambaba around that I like to kind of have present. I'll show off my favorite one. This is my Kambaba heart that's got some druzy crystals in it there that is nice and shiny. But yeah, so and my dad liked rocks and gemstones. And so, you know, I lost him a few years ago, back in 2016. So I think that's part of it as well, is, you know, it makes me feel connected to those I've lost. And yeah, I have different palm stones. So those I can hold in my hand when I'm kind of doing visualization with folks, or because that's another part of the EFT tapping that I'm trained in. I'm trained in the McDonald manifestation method. And so we do use visualization and some of those things. So that's when the crystals come in handy, is I will kind of hold those and use their energy when we're doing those visualizations.
Nice.
Cool.
Very nice. Oh, I love this. Okay, so how does your practice work with a client? So you meet and you learn about their story, I guess, or their story. I don't know. I'm fully making this up now.
Well, my process is that I have people apply to work with me, because I work under the umbrella of harm reduction and best fit. Right. So I want to make sure that I am the best fit for you, and that you are the best fit for me and how I operate, because I don't want to start doing this work and have us not work out. I don't want to ever do harm. I want to do good. And so if I'm not the best fit for you, then I'm going to do my best to find somebody who is. And again, I know a wonderful network of amazing tapping practitioners. So the first step is to fill out my application. if I read that and, you shared a little bit of your story and I'm like, yeah, I think this is aligned, then we have a call to kind of chat about what package somebody wants to purchase, because I do it that people get to kind of package or purchase a amount of time. So I have an initial 90-minute session because that's what you kind of need the first time you're tapping, because I'm teaching you how and we're digging in and kind of going through. And then after that, you get to decide how much time you need to use per session. Is it just a quick check-in where you just need 45 minutes of a tune-up to kind of work through something that came up that week?
Yeah.
Or do you need another 90-minute session, a couple 90-minute sessions, because we're going to work through, like I said earlier, taking those table legs out and working through some bigger trauma or some inner childhood stuff.
So I have to be honest, I love the analogy of the table legs, but it also kind of freaks me out because you guys are killing me here. Okay,
I can't imagine what's scary about a table, so I'm anxious to hear.
So here's what's coming. So I feel like we're gonna kick out one of the table legs, and I'm gonna be left with a wobbly table, a three-legged table. And then I'm like, okay, so you've opened up all this stuff. And then what do I do with it until I talk to you again? Like, I would be on the phone to you literally for about an hour. Because I would want all the table legs. Like, I need stuff even, right? I don't want any wonky table like this,
Well, that's the beautiful part of Jackie's method that I am trained in, the McDonald manifestation method, is we are trained to put things away, so to speak, at the end of every session. So I will extend a session. I will stay on longer with a client, and I pad my schedule that way. So that's possible. Because I'm never going to be like, oh, look, time's up. Okay, bye. While somebody's in the middle of like trauma, right? That's just like, right. That is when you're going to send somebody off with a wonky table, and that's not
just
okay.
Wait till that final revelation, lean in and just go.
And that can happen, right? You can be tapping along and you can be towards the end of a session and some new memory will come up and we're trained in how to put that away, so to speak. Right. That's kind of what we call it, is put that away in a way that honors it and keeps you safe and sends you forward. And my disclaimer to all clients is, hey, if you get down the road a day or two, like that's when you call me and we like figure out how to squeeze you in.
Right. Because
again, I operate under the umbrella of harm reduction. So I'm never going to send somebody out there with a wonky table that they're worried about toppling over that's going to cause harm.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that in my talking about EFT is I've had people, oh, I'm afraid of EFT because I've had a bad experience, or I've had things go wrong, or I felt worse afterwards. And my best guess in those scenarios is it either wasn't a good fit with the practitioner wasn't fully trained in how to keep you safe, or you weren't honest with the practitioner. And so that is kind of part of my other disclaimer is I need you to be fully honest with me. Like, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to honor whatever comes up. This is a safe and sacred space. And the best way for me to keep you safe is for you to be fully open and honest with me. And if a memory comes up that you don't want to look at, I'm not going to make you look at it, but we're going to put it away safely before I send you on your way, because I'm not going to send you off with a memory that's a fresh open wound. That would be like going to the doctor and you've got multiple cuts and the doctor only fixes one cut and sends you off with a oozing, gaping wound on the other arm because, I fixed one of them. Like, no, I would never do that to someone.
No, I know you wouldn't. I was just picturing that. I just had this picture of, kind of like, surely you can't clear all of the table in one session, right? So you're going to so I guess it's a bit like, okay, this is going to sound weird. This is a memory coming up for me now. My grandmother used to have a card table, and there was always like, either the floor wasn't even or the table was wobbly, but she would put like card underneath the legs to sort of stabilize it. I'm sort of picturing that, like, so you kind of put in like a little temporary thing to even you out, and then we go back and
right.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel a little bit better. I don't know why I had such a physical reaction to that. But you have to do all four legs.
But no, that was a great question. And, maybe your table has 7 legs, or maybe your table has 12 legs. And so as we take those off, hopefully the other legs shift, so to speak, right? So that you're not totally off balance. But the hope is that eventually you get it to where that table itself just disappears because you've taken out the bigger legs, and really what you're doing is you're clearing those narrow pathways, you're healing, you're rewiring. And so eventually the brain goes, I don't even need to worry about that anymore because I did this work over here. And so I'm good. And like, yes, that memory's here. Yes, but I'm all right because I already have worked on that and that's no longer significant.
Yeah.
So do you find that people change in that rewiring, change some of their belief systems?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great tool for if you've got those, we all had grandmas or aunts or people that meant well, but they maybe did some damage, right, with some of the things they've said or, and especially I experienced that. I have been a fat woman my whole life. I was a fat child and, my family didn't understand because I was also a feral child, right? Growing up in Montana, we played outside all day long from sun up to sundown. And so, my family didn't understand. And, years later, we got the reasons medically why, but my grandma did a lot of damage. And I know that she was doing the best she could with what she had. She'd been handed down that from her dad. I found out later in my life that her dad had been pretty critical around body image stuff. But if you've solidified those beliefs, right, that come from other people, if they've been solidified by enough people saying it or enough things that reinforce it, then that's what EFT can do, is it can help go in and say, no, this isn't the truth. You get to rewrite your truth. What do you want your truth to be? What do you want to believe instead?
Oh, and that's a really powerful lesson to learn, especially, as you say, taking on somebody else's beliefs, which we're, as you say,
Yes.
we're programmed to do from childhood, and then to have to unlearn those, that's really intensive.
Yeah.
I love the fact that with EFT and with what you practice, there's very much a case of, people who are in the lockdown situation that a lot of us are in at the moment. If you're listening to this post-COVID, then congratulations. But but we are mid, and the idea of being able to reach more people in their homes has got to be really amazing for you. How has it been to kind of continue to practice during COVID?
Well, I'm thankful for Zoom when it decides to cooperate. So when Zoom isn't acting up, it's great because I can still see people's faces, because that's the important part, is I want to be able to see people's faces for if their affect change or all of a sudden they're crying, or, I can tell if things aren't landing right, and to make sure they're kind of, following along and tapping on the places.
Yeah.
And it just builds rapport and builds connection, and it's safer that way. So that's been great because I've tapped with women in the UK. I've tapped with women in New Zealand, or spoken to people in New Zealand. Like, I am able to reach out to people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to work myself out of a job. I love EFT tapping. I love that there's more people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be wonderful if we were all had this, emotional mastery, and we're able to heal ourselves and able to, do these wonderful things and get through life in a way that we didn't need people to help us heal, right? So I'd love to work myself out of a job. But because we are in the middle of a pandemic and the world is what it is, and our nervous systems are constantly bombarded with negative stimulus and really difficult things, I think that EFT tapping and us tapping practitioners will be needed for quite some time.
Yeah. So do we get to a point in the practice where it becomes that you do this for yourself?
Oh yeah, part of me learning was having to do a number of sessions by myself on myself.
Right.
So, and that is, people can go out and start tapping on themselves today. There's apps, there's YouTube, there's a lot of us practitioners are doing it from our Facebook groups or Facebook pages or things like that. I think there's people on TikTok doing it. So there's plenty of places you can find tapping to kind of do it on your own or follow along. Where you want to get a practitioner is if you really need to do some of that deeper healing work, or you're not seeing things change or shift or get better. Because we can dig in deeper. We can, help you build those muscles, ask the questions that maybe you don't know to ask yourself. And there's power in hearing your language reflected back to you. So in talking to a practitioner and kind of expressing things, and then I reflect that back to you in a way, you may be like, oh, I'm hearing that differently. And now I'm having this new memory or thought come up, and I hadn't thought about that before, and now, right, and the dots start to connect themselves in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, tapping can be something that goes from needing a practitioner and doing like this deep healing work to being something that, oh, I'm anxious today, I need to tap, or oh, I'm waking up and I'm kind of crabby and my coffee's not doing its job, I want to get rid of this crabby feeling, like let's tap it out.
So what's your favorite tapping thing? Can you take us through? Because I jokingly said that I would tap Ryan. This is before he knew that you tap yourself. So I was like,
he's not the only one that's had that misperception. I have had to explain to people that it's very much like Simon Says. And
Right.
so the practitioner taps on the practitioner and the client taps on themselves. It's not where we have to be.
Tell Ryan that now, because I don't get to hit him tap him. Yeah.
Oh, see, this is how it all comes out. There we go. Yeah. This is how this starts.
But no, I've had that question several times.
Yeah.
Because people do get very confused.
Yeah,
like, how do we do this? People do get confused. Like, how do we do this in this day and time? And it's like, oh, no, we can do it on a Zoom screen.
Yeah.
You're tapping on yourself. I don't have to tap on you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But so my favorite tapping points are under the nose and the collarbone points, because I can just feel those kind of radiate throughout my body. But here's a little trick. If you feel like you're starting to cry and you're in a space where you don't want to be seen crying, take a finger and at the bottom of your nose, kind of where that middle cartilage hits the top of your lip, press in and up, and that will stave off the tears until you can get somewhere where you can cry. Because you should always let your tears fall. Tears are cleansing, tears are necessary. But if you are somewhere where it's not a good look, just press in and up on that nose and sneak off to wherever you can let those tears fly.
Okay.
That's interesting, because I didn't cry for almost my entire adult life until 2 years ago. Like, didn't cry. And I know. And I went to various energy healers. I had chiropractics. I had all kinds of different things. And I was like, nothing. Like, I'm dead inside. No, I already really didn't think that. But it did feel, it did feel like I just don't have the need. This is very deep well. And so what happens now is there's just like random crying now. It's like the floodgates. And it's like I can be in the supermarket and go, oh, I'm gonna cry. So that's a really good little tip.
Right.
Yeah, I learned that decades ago when I was in college, and it's been handy.
Just put pressure on the nerves.
And you use your index finger and middle finger.
Right. So 2 to 3 fingers to kind of tap. And so if you can use both hands, it's like a typical tapping sequence starts on the side of your hand, which is called the karate chop point. And this is where we do what's called the setup phrases. So that's going to be like, so we have kind of 3 phases of tapping. So we give ourselves the intensity of our emotions a rating. So if my emotion is, let's use anxiety. If I'm feeling anxious, really like it's pretty intense, like it's at a 10, I'm going to start tapping on the side of my hand, even though I'm really anxious and it's really intense right now. And I feel it in my stomach. I love and accept myself fully. Even though this anxiety is really intense and I feel it all through my body, I love and accept myself fully. Even though this anxiety is super present and it's got me super heightened, I love and accept myself fully. And then you're going to start going through the body points. I'm really anxious right now. I feel it in my stomach. It's really intense. I don't like this anxiety. I'm scared to do, anything, right? So you're going to use whatever's coming up for you in that language, and then you're going to move through the points. So we do the setup phrases on the karate chop point, then it's top of the head. And so if you can use both hands there, then eyebrow point, which is kind of right, not right in the middle of the eyebrow, but kind of right up there above the top of the start of the eyebrow. Then side of the eye is literally right out from the corner of your eye on the temple bones there. Then under the eye, which is kind of right on those sinus cheekbones. Then under the nose, it's literally right there on your upper lip between lip and nose. Then chin is between lip and chin, which I've got a nice little groove there. And then collarbone is right over your collarbone points. And then we do under the arm, which for us ladies is kind of right where our bra band would hit under our arms. And this point can be really awkward for people. Some people like to hug themselves because that's easier.
Yeah.
to kind of get both sides. And then under the chest is the next point, which for us ladies that are busty can be also tricky. So for this one, I adapt and I use the pads of my fingers and I go right below my xiphoid process under my sternum. And I'm still tapping on my liver point there. So that still works. And then wrist point is the last kind of point. And that's one of my favorites too. So
I like that. That feels good.
yeah.
Okay.
And does it matter which hand you use?
No, you can switch between hands. If you only have one hand free to do it, you can use one hand. So like on those places where there's 2 points, right? Like if you've only got one hand free, you can just do the one hand.
Sure. Oh, that's great.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And I think it's interesting, you know, for listeners to go through that and try that and feel where you notice it and just feel and then the affirmation is so important because then that's making an association between those words
right
and the release in your body, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So we use a rating scale and we call it SUD. So if the intensity of the emotion, memory, belief, event, whatever, is between an 8 and a 10, that's where you're going to want to start with venting. So you're going to want to focus on negative, right? You're going to want to vent it all out. You're not introducing any new emotions or any new possibilities. If it's between a 4 and a 7, that's where possibility comes in. And you can start to say, even though I feel anxious, I'm ready to let that go. And I'm ready to be calm instead, right? So you're starting to welcome in and let go of whatever you're moving away from and welcome in what you want to move towards. And then if you're between a 0 and a 3, that's called the affirmation stage. And that's where you can be like, even though I was anxious before, I am calm now and I am safe. Even though I was anxious and I felt it in my stomach, my body feels calm now, right? So you can move into those different phases or start, you know where to start based on that rating scale.
Right.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Do you find that can people make up their kind of own affirmations with it, or do you suggest to start with like a set?
No, using your own language is the key to EFT. So whatever you're really feeling, in fact, when we go back and do inner child work, we use the language of whatever age that person is. Right. So if you're like, that person was stupid and they stunk, right? Like you use whatever language is present for that memory, event, beliefs, etc.
Wow.
Because then it's more powerful.
Yeah, I love how adaptable it is to so many different situations, and you know, in terms of like that you can do these things when, say, for instance, you're in a public space and you don't want to, you know, you don't want to lose your cool, or you don't want to lose your composure. You know, I really like the fact there's that side of it. But then to have your own language that you can inbuild with it and not even have to speak out loud is even cooler.
Right. And so, yeah, you can do it in your head, right? Like I can be sitting here doing a tapping sequence and not even having to say it out loud. If your mind starts to wander, then it's good to go back to saying it out loud. But yeah, if you're somebody that cusses and you are like, and you need to throw some expletives in there, throw some expletives in there. If you, you know, whatever you need language wise. And that's what I also tell people when I'm tapping with them. And especially when we do, like, if I do live videos or things, I'll be like, fill in the blank or change the language. Like, this is for you. Tapping is for you. So it has to resonate with you. So if the language doesn't work, change the language. And my clients have full permission to interrupt me during a session if the language isn't landing.
Right.
Cool.
And you used to be a coach, right?
Yes. And then I did lots of work to move to getting to call myself a counselor.
Hey, cool.
Yeah, congratulations. How is it different? How because people are familiar with the term coach now, I think. Right. Mostly. So how what's the difference there?
I think for me, mostly, besides the money I spent, no. I think it's more about like coaches want you to kind of figure it out, right? And like they're there to kind of cheer from the sidelines. Whereas I will go down in the trenches with you and hold that space for you when you are in your darkest, deepest, most difficult moments. And be that mirror, be that guide. So it's not that I'm doing the work for you. So it's similar to coaching in that, right? Like the client still needs to do the work, but I'm there to sit with you in those hard moments, whatever that looks like, and hold that space for you in the most safe and sacred way possible.
Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So we have some questions.
Should I be worried?
No, you actually shouldn't. You actually shouldn't, because I know you're already, even though you don't know what these questions are going to be, I know that you have already thought about these because you have a past.
Don't we all?
Well, and I love that for you. So, okay. So if you're going on stage to perform Cabaret, what one prop would you want to have with you?
A feather boa.
Work.
And is there a color to that?
Well, the one I own is red and black, but I think now I would want purple and orange.
Ooh, nice choice.
Wow.
Ooh, nice choice. Yeah. That's very, I'm very much like that because it's very close to my my favorite color scheme, which is always purple and yellow.
Nice.
Love that.
Nice. And so, and what is your stage name when you're going on with your feather boa that's purple and orange?
Well, I think I would have to go with Miss Amanda.
Oh.
Perfect.
Okay. I like the attitude with that. Because it can be like really kind of sweet and Miss Amanda, and then it can also be like
right.
Or, once upon a time, I did have the Dandy Miss Mandy as a nickname. So that could be a possibility as well.
I like that. Plus, it's still got its own element of like fierceness to it as well. Like either Dandy Miss Man, or Miss Amanda. Is both of them have got kind of like we can be aloof, or we can be fun, or we can be silly, or we can be sexy, or we can be, it's got those dimensions. I like.
Well, and there's that title in there, so like you're gonna throw some respect in there because I am, Miss Amanda. So.
Absolutely, I like
that.
Yes. Fully on board with that.
What is your favorite, maybe not your biggest, but what is your favorite lesson that you've ever learned?
Oh, my favorite lesson I've ever learned is to just be yourself, right? Like nobody gets out of life alive. We all die. It is not worth it to spend your life trying to fit in everybody else's boxes or ideas of who you are.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself. So I have tattooed on my arm, find your voice, speak your truth. And like, yeah, I'm getting chills as I like even think about it. That is my biggest lesson, right? I've grown up as a fat woman who has had all this, horrible things said and done to me because I simply was who I am. And now even as an adult, right? When I show up and I take up space and I'm authentically who I am, there are people that have an issue with that. And it's like, that's too bad. That's your problem. Like I get to live authentically as myself, 100% me, 100% of the time, because this is my life and I only get one to live. And I spent enough of my life trying to fit other people's boxes and having to do the healing work from that. And I won't live that way anymore.
Yeah.
So be 100% you 100% of the time.
Yeah. No one should live that way. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such an important soundbite.
Absolutely. It's that's a message I think everybody needs to hear at some point, because we all, as we said earlier, we all get fed these limiting beliefs, these ideas of what and who we should be, how we should behave, what we should look like. Every little part of our lives is controlled and provided a should. And
yes,
the should means nothing. The should is ridiculous. It's just another way of keeping us from not talking. It's another way of keeping us down. It's just another way of stopping us from living our lives fully. And thank you so much for talking to us today and being that badass person who continues to just be a total badass. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, as you both know, Labyrinth is my favorite movie of all time. My dog is named Ludo. And I realized as I've I don't know why, but it's been mulling around in my head lately. And I think the reason I love that movie so much is because the character Sarah in it, right? Mm-hmm. She was this unencumbered teenage girl that, yes, she had the horrible, evil stepmother, as she called it, right? Mm-hmm. But she still played fantasy and like had these dreams as a teenager. And in this day and age, we don't have that, right? But her power line, her key line ends with, "You have no power over me."
Right.
To Jareth, the Goblin King. And even though at that age when I watched Labyrinth and I didn't have the power to say to all these people that were telling me all these things that I didn't want to believe about myself, right? That I knew to be different. I didn't have the ability to say, you have no power over me. That stuck. And now I'm in my 40s and I can say, you have no power over me. I'm a grown woman. I pay my own bills. Like, I'm good. No, you have no power over me.
Yeah.
I get to be me. So if you haven't watched Labyrinth, go watch Labyrinth. Be like Sarah. Tell your goblin kings that they have no power over you.
And find yourself a Ludo.
Yes.
Ludo for cuddle. Everybody needs a Ludo. And I
Yes.
have one question for you. One giant question to finish this all out. Where can we find you?
Well, I have a Facebook biz page under Value Yourself Counseling. My Instagram handle is also Value Yourself Counseling. And then if women, sorry, Ryan, it's just for the ladies, women identifying folks, if you want to join a group where you get to be 100% you 100% of the time, I just started a Facebook group called Badass Women Breaking Barriers. And so that's another place women can find me.
Cool. Oh my God, thank you. It has been such an honor to speak with you today, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you and to talk about your amazing practices and to discuss all the wonderful things that make you you. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great way to start my day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I keep forgetting that there's a time difference and that we're
Yes, I'm in Portland, Oregon, where it's still, still morning part of the day, and you guys are wrapping up your day.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I will be in Badass Women Breaking Barriers like in minutes after we end it. I fully will. I love that.
Yeah, it's just a fun space where I will be sharing some tapping there. I also do what I call hot topics, where I go live from my hot tub and share whatever, hot topic is going on. I also I've got a post where women can share their tattoos. Today it's International Women's Day, so I've got a post for women to honor other women. But yeah, it's just a space where we as women identifying folks get to show up 100% ourselves 100% of the time.
Cool. Yes.
That's amazing. Thank you.
And do you think also it would be a very fun thing to do to bring a hot tub into a hot topic and to just do it from there? I mean, I think that would be a great thing.
Yes.
The presentation in a hot topic in a hot tub. I think that's worth it.
Well, once we can go back in spaces and speak again, that will be can I get a hot tub on stage from, we'll see. I don't know if anybody will book me then, This chick requires a hot tub on stage. I can't afford her.
That's the best rider request ever. I need a hot tub or I am not turning up.
Maybe we could do a bucket and a kettle.
Yeah, that'll do it. There we go.
Well, that's gonna have to be a pretty big bucket, because honey, this big old body's gonna need a pretty big bucket.
Oh my God. Thank you honestly so much for joining us today. It's been, as I say, I've said it 1,000 times, it's such a pleasure to be talking with you and to talk about your practice and everything that you do. Make sure, people, if you're listening to us today, that you go and check out Amanda's amazing groups. Go check out their practice. It's just wonderful. You are in really good hands here. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
This has been the Confidence Through Cabaret podcast. So if you would like to join us in our final affirmation, then we would be very honored. Yes. My name is Ryan.
And my name is Heather.
My name is Amanda.
And we're here to remind you that it is your body, your world, your stage. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you soon. Goodbye.